The spotlight was a hot circle on Leah's face, and the roar of the crowd was a wave crashing at her feet. Thousands of voices chanted her name, flashing phone screens lighting up the arena like a galaxy. She had just finished her latest hit, Starlight, a soaring ballad that had topped charts for weeks. The applause was deafening, the energy electric. This was it, the dream. Everything she had worked for since she was a little girl, humming melodies into a rusty microphone in her grandma's garage. But as she took her bow, a strange quiet settled over her, a tiny pocket of stillness amidst the chaos. It wasn't sadness exactly, but a feeling like a puzzle piece was missing. She loved performing, loved her fans, loved the way music could connect people. Yet, lately, something felt incomplete, like a melody that needed a final, perfect chord. Backstage, the buzz continued. Her team was congratulating her. Her manager, Sarah, already talking about the next tour dates, the next interview. Leah smiled, nodded, said all the right things. She picked up her guitar, a battered acoustic she'd had since college, and her fingers instinctively found a chord. A soft, melancholic hum. "You okay, Leah?" Sarah asked. Her brow furrowed. "You look a million miles away." Leah chuckled, a little tired. "Just thinking it's amazing, isn't it, all this? But sometimes it feels like I'm still searching for something, you know?" Sarah, practical as ever, just patted her shoulder. "You're searching for a vacation, sweetie. You've been working non-stop." Maybe Sarah was right. Leah definitely needed a break. But it wasn't just exhaustion. It was a deeper yearning, a whisper in her soul that there was more music out there, something waiting to be discovered, something ancient and powerful. Leah had always been drawn to old music. Her apartment was filled with byline records, dusty biographies of forgotten blues singers, and documentaries about the golden age of rock and roll. While other kids her age were only listening to the latest TikTok trends, Leah was digging through crates at obscure record stores, searching for hidden gems. She loved the raw emotion, the stories etched into every groove. And among all the legends, one stood above the rest for Leah. Elvis Presley. His voice wasn't just a sound. It was an experience. The way he could go from a tender whisper to a roaring shout, the way he embodied passion and joy and heartbreak, all at once. She had watched every documentary, listened to every song, imagined what it must have been like to see him live. There was a magic about him, an undeniable charisma that transcended time. Sometimes late at night, she'd even dream of him, not like a scary ghost, familiar melody just out of reach. Lately, these dreams had become more vivid. Not clear pictures, but fragments of sound, a hum, a low rumble, a rhythm that pulsed beneath her skin. She'd wake up with a feeling of something important, slipping away a musical idea she couldn't quite grasp. It was frustrating. She'd try to hum the melody, play it on her guitar, but it was like trying to catch mist. One evening, after another grueling recording session where she felt like she was just going through the motions, Leah found herself back in her apartment, surrounded by her records. She pulled out a faded Elvis album, Elvis Is Back, and placed it gently on her turntable. The needle dropped and the familiar crackle filled the room before Elvis's voice poured out rich and powerful. She closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her, and then it happened. Not a dream this time, but a sensation so real, it made her gasp. A melody, clear as a bell, unfamiliar yet undeniably his, floated into her mind. It wasn't one of his famous tunes. It was something new, something raw, a mournful, soulful tune. And woven into it like a gentle counterpoint was a female voice, soft and harmonious, her own voice somehow. Leah's eyes snapped open. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She scrambled for her phone, opened a voice recorder app, and tried to hum what she'd heard. Just as quickly as it had come, it faded, leaving only a faint echo. She played back her recording, It was just her hum, a little off-key, a ghost of a memory. What was that? She whispered to the empty room. Her hands trembled. It felt like more than just a dream, more than just her imagination running wild. It felt like a connection, a message. She spent the rest of the night trying to recapture it, strumming chords, humming notes, but it was no use. The melody, the duet, was gone yet. A tiny spark had been lit inside her. The missing piece of the puzzle wasn't a vacation or another hit song. It was this elusive ancient melody. She felt a surge of purpose, a strange, undeniable pull. She had to find it. She had to find him, even if it seemed impossible. Weeks turned into a blur of concerts, interviews, and promotional events. Leah was exhausted, but the memory of that elusive melody, the one with Elvis's voice interwoven with hers, gnawed at her. She kept playing the rough hum she'd captured on her phone, knowing it was just a shadow of the real thing. It felt like chasing smoke, but she couldn't let it go. It felt too important. One rainy Tuesday, when Leah was finally back in her apartment for a rare day, off her doorbell rang. It wasn't Sarah, her manager, who usually called first. It was a delivery person holding a large, oddly shaped package. "Leah Monroe?" the delivery person asked. "That's me," Leah said, curious. She hadn't ordered anything big, signature required. "This is from the estate of Elara Vance." Leah's brows furrowed. Elara Vance? The name sounded vaguely familiar, like someone from her grandmother's side of the family, a distant cousin she'd met once or twice as a child, someone who had lived alone and had a reputation for being a bit eccentric. Leah signed the tablet, and the delivery person wheeled in a heavy old wooden trunk. "Estate of Elara Vance says here it's full of personal effects. Requested to be delivered to you specifically." The person explained, then left as quickly as they arrived. Leah stared at the trunk. It was made of dark polished wood, with brass latches that had turned green with age. It looked like something from an old movie. She knelt down, her fingers tracing the intricate carvings on the lid. What could Elara Vance, a distant relative she barely knew, have left her with a creak? The latches sprang open. Inside, a strange assortment of items lay nestled. Yellowed lace doilies, brittle photo albums filled with faded black and white pictures, old letters tied with ribbon, a collection of forgotten trinkets, and beneath it all, wrapped in a velvet cloth, was a small, rectangular box. Leah lifted it out. It was a professional-looking tape recorder from an older era, heavy and sturdy. Next to it, in a slim, plain white box, were several reel-to-reel tapes. Most were labeled with neat handwriting. Family Picnic, 68. Grandma's Party, 72. But one tape stood out. It was unmarked. Just a blank white label. A shiver went down Leah's spine. A wild, impossible thought sparked in her mind. No, it couldn't be. But the pull she felt towards that unmarked tape was undeniable. This voice was raw, unpolished, almost vulnerable. He was humming, searching for a melody, and then he started to sing softly, testing the notes. "Lost in a moment, suspended in time, searching for something I left behind," Leah gasped. The words, the melody, it was the exact tune, the exact feeling she had heard in her dreams, the one she had tried to hum on her phone. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't a dream. This was real. The recording continued. Elvis's voice filled the room. A rough demo, perhaps just him and a guitar. It sounded like he was in a small room, maybe just messing around, working out an idea. There were pauses, a sigh, a clearing of his throat. He sang another verse, then mumbled something Leah couldn't quite make out, something about needing a partner for this one. Then the tape stopped, just like that. The silence that followed was deafening. Leah sat frozen, process what had just happened. A song she had somehow heard in a dream, a song that seemed to call out for her. She rewound the tape, played it again. Every detail was the same. The raw emotion in his voice, the unfinished quality of the song, the way it just ended. But there was something else this time. A faint shimmer in the sound, like an echo. A feeling of presence in the room, almost as if he was there, listening with her. Leah spent hours that night listening to the tape. Over and over she tried to analyze it, to find an explanation. Was it a prank? An incredibly well-made fake? But the quality of the voice, the raw emotion, it felt too real to be anything but genuine. And the fact that it mirrored her dreams, that was the truly unsettling part. She thought about her distant relative, Elara Vance. What was her connection to Elvis? Had she known him? Was this tape a secret she had kept for decades, now finally being passed on? Leah realized. She knew almost nothing about Elara, only vague family legends of her being a free spirit, a bit of a wanderer. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of orange, Leah knew what she had to do. This wasn't just an old demo. This was a gift, a mystery, and a challenge. She had to take it to Mark, her producer. He was a genius in the studio, a wizard with sound. If anyone could tell her if this was real, if anyone could help her understand what she was holding, it was him. But even as she made the decision, a part of her knew that what she held was far beyond Mark's understanding, far beyond anything logic could explain. It felt like destiny. The next morning, Leah clutched the old reel-to-reel tape box like it was a priceless pal. Her hand still trembled slightly from the sheer shock and wonder of the previous night. She had barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities, her ears still ringing with Elvis's raw, unfinished melody. She called Mark, her producer, as soon as it was a reasonable hour. "Mark, I know this sounds crazy, but I found something unbelievable. I need you to hear it. Can I come by the studio?" Mark, ever calm, even when faced with Leah's occasional bursts of creative madness, agreed. "Sure, Leah, long as it's not another song about glitter and unicorns." He chuckled. Leah arrived at the studio, a modern, sleek space that felt light years away from the dusty, old-fashioned reel-to-reel machine she carried. Mark, a stocky man with kind eyes and a perpetually rumpled t-shirt, was already at the mixing board, adjusting knobs. "So, what's this big secret?" he asked, gesturing to the tape. "Looks like something out of a museum." Leah carefully placed the tape box on the console. "It might as well be, Mark. I think this is an unreleased Elvis demo." Mark stopped fiddling with the board, his eyebrows shot up. "Elvis, seriously, like the Elvis?" "Leah, people find unreleased Elvis demos all the time. Most of them are fakes, or just mislabeled old recordings." He tried to sound skeptical, but Leah could see the flicker of interest in his eyes. He was a music historian at heart, too. "Just listen," Leah pleaded, her voice a little breathless. She explained how she found it vague about the dream part, focusing more on the distant relative. Mark connected the old reel-to-reel player to a studio's state-of-the-art system. The setup was clunky, a mix of old and new technology. He pressed play. The familiar hiss and crackle filled the control room. Mark leaned in his ear, practically pressed against the speaker. Then Elvis's voice, soft, searching, singing that soulful melody. "Lost in a moment, suspended in time, searching for something I left behind." Mark froze. His initial skepticism melted away, replaced by pure awe. He ran a hand through his already messy hair. "Holy cow," he whispered. That's him. It's got his signature vibrato, the way he holds notes, but it's so raw. Sounds like a private recording." He adjusted a few settings, trying to clean up the sound. No background noise, no instruments, other than a single guitar. This is pure, too pure. He let the track play to the end, where Elvis mumbled something unintelligible before the tape cut off. The silence that followed was heavy with wonder. "Okay, Leah," Mark said, turning to her, his expression a mixture of disbelief and excitement. "Where did you say you got this This isn't just an unreleased demo, this is pristine. It sounds like he's right here in the room. Most old demos have hiss, pops, crackles, background noise. This one, it's like a direct feed from his soul. He frowned. Too perfect for an old tape, almost like it's not really a tape. Leah knew exactly what he meant. She had felt it too. The voice wasn't like a muffled recording from the past. It felt present, vibrant, alive. I told you, from my distant relative, Elara Vance. She was a bit of a mystery. I don't know how she got it. Mark spent the next 2 hours trying to analyze the tape. He ran it through various sound processors, spectrum analyzers, trying to find any signs of tampering, any anomalies. But the sound was clean, almost impossibly so for its age. It defied explanation. I can't find any signs of it being a fake, Mark finally admitted, leaning back in his chair, defeated by the mystery, but invigorated by the discovery. No digital manipulation, no known samples. It sounds organic, but how it's this clean from an old reel to reel, I have no idea. It's like the recording itself transcends time. He looked at Leah, a new respect in his eyes. This is a goldmine, Leah, a literal goldmine. We could clean this up, add some instrumentation, and it would be a sensation, the biggest musical discovery in decades. Leah nodded, but her mind wasn't on the commercial aspect. She was still focused on the feeling she got from the tape, the way it connected to her dreams. But it's unfinished, Mark. He only sings a verse or two, and at the end he says something about needing a partner for this one. It feels like he's asking for someone to finish it. Mark rubbed his chin. Partner, huh? Well, that would certainly make it more interesting than just releasing a short, unfinished demo. We could hire a session singer to finish it. Maybe. A male artist, someone who could mimic his style. No. Leah interrupted, her voice firm. You, Leah, it's a bluesy, classic rock kind of vibe. Your stuff is more pop ballad. But this song, it's the one from my dreams, Leah confessed, blurting it out before she could second-guess herself. I've been hearing it in my head for weeks. His voice and then my voice, singing with him like a duet. This tape, it's the other half. Mark stared at her. Processing. He didn't quite believe in dreams guiding music, but he had witnessed Leah's uncanny ability to create magic out of thin air. He knew her connection to old music was deep, and he had just heard how clean that voice was on the tape. It was an echo, but it felt like a presence. Crazy idea. But what if you're right? What if it is meant for you? What if this isn't just an echo, but a call? He leaned forward, eyes glinting with excitement. Let's try. Let's see if we can build a song around it. A true duet, Elvis and Leah. It's insane, it's impossible. And that's exactly why it might just work. Leah felt a surge of relief and excitement. Mark, despite his practical nature, was open to the extraordinary. As they listened to the tape again, Leah focused on the pauses, the unspoken parts of the song. She could feel the melody forming in her own mind, the words rising to meet Elvis's voice. The echo was getting stronger, clearer, calling to her from across time, asking her to join in the studio. Became Leah's second home. Days blurred into nights as she and Mark worked on the mysterious Elvis demo. Mark had meticulously transferred the old reel-to-reel recording into a digital format, but even then, the unique quality of Elvis's voice persisted. It had a clarity that defied the age of the original recording, almost as if it had been recorded yesterday. Leah, however, wasn't focused on the technical anomalies. She was immersed in the music itself. She listened to the short, unfinished vocal track over and over, trying to absorb every nuance, every emotional tremor in Elvis's voice. She felt like a musical detective trying to piece together a puzzle from a whisper. The song was mournful yet hopeful. It spoke of searching, of longing for something lost, of a journey through time. Leah intuitively understood the theme. It was about connection, about reaching across an impossible divide. As she listened, the dreams returned stronger and clearer than before this time. Elvis wasn't just a vague presence. He was there in her dreams, not speaking words, but communicating through music. He would hum the next phrase, show her the chord changes, guide her hand as she wrote. It was like a silent spiritual collaboration. One night she dreamt she was standing on a stage, a vintage microphone. In front of her, the lights were dim, a hazy glow. Beside her, though she couldn't quite see his face, was a figure, tall, monarch, his silhouette unmistakably Elvis. He turned, not speaking, but somehow feeling the melody to her. It wasn't just a sound in her head. It was a physical sensation vibrating through her. She started to sing, and as her voice joined his, a beautiful harmony filled the dreamscape. She woke up with the entire second verse of the song fully formed in her mind. Perfect words, perfect melody. She rushed to the studio, her heart pounding with excitement. "Mark, I've got it." The second verse. Mark, bleary-eyed but always ready, listened as Leah sang. He had been skeptical about her dreams, but he couldn't deny the sudden bursts of inspiration, the way the music was flowing through her. The new lyrics fit Elvis's original lines, pieing as if they were always meant to be together, through the veils of silence. "I hear your call, a melody from shadows reaching through it all," Mark hummed, impressed. "That's profound, Leah. It really builds on his initial idea. It feels like a conversation." Leah nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "It is. It feels like he's right here, guiding me." Mark just gave her a look, part curious, part concerned. "Look, Leah, I believe in inspiration, but let's stick to what we know. You're brilliant. You're connecting with the material. That's all we need." He was practical. He didn't want to delve into the supernatural, but he couldn't deny the magic happening. Despite Mark's pragmatism, Leah felt Elvis's presence more and more. When she was alone in the studio, working on the track, she'd sometimes feel a chill or a warmth, or catch a faint scent of something old like pomade and leather. She'd look around, and there would be nothing but the feeling lingered. It wasn't frightening, it was comforting, like an old friend was watching over her. She started leaving the reel-to-reel player plugged in even when she wasn't using it. She felt like it was an antenna, a way for the connection to remain open. Sometimes late at night she would walk past it, and she'd swear she heard a faint, almost imperceptible hum coming from the machine, a resonance that was more felt than heard. The song was taking shape. Leah had written the verses, the chorus, and even a bridge that perfectly blended her contemporary style with the timeless feel of Elvis's original demo. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, a duet written across decades. She envisioned the final product, a blend of classic and modern, a bridge between two eras. There was a profound sense of responsibility that came with this. This wasn't just a new song for her album. This was Elvis, a legend, and she was being entrusted with his unfinished work. It felt like she was a conduit, a vessel for something greater than herself. One afternoon, while working on the harmonies, Leah hit a wall. She couldn't quite get the chorus right. She tried different notes, different inflections, but nothing felt authentic. Frustrated, she leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. "Help me," she whispered to the empty studio. "Just a little push." Silence. Then, a low, soft hum. Seemingly from the speakers, though nothing was playing, it was the same hum she'd heard in her dreams. It pulsed, guiding her, and suddenly the harmony clicked into place. A soaring, unexpected note that perfectly complemented Elvis's voice. It was simple, yet brilliant. Leah's eyes flew open. She quickly sang the harmony, recording it. When she played it back overlaid with Elvis's original vocal, a wave of emotion washed over her. It was perfect, more than perfect. It was divine. Mark walked in a moment later, coffee cup in hand. "How's it going?" "Listen," Leah said. "Playing. Wow, bet you really nailed that." "Leah, where did that come from?" Leah just smiled, a secret sparkling in her eyes. It just came. She knew. She truly knew. Now, Elvis wasn't just an echo on a tape. He was a whisper in the studio, a guiding hand, a silent partner across the impossible chasm of time, and together they were creating something truly unreal. With the full structure of the song now laid out, Leah and Mark shifted their focus from discovery to creation. The demo, lovingly nicknamed The Whisper by Leah, was the heart of everything. Elvis's raw vocal track, so clear yet so ethereal, was the foundation. Leah had written her parts carefully, weaving her lyrics and melodies around his, creating a true conversational duet. "Okay, so the challenge," Mark announced one morning, staring at the digital file of Elvis's vocal projected onto the large screen in the studio. "How do we make this sound like you guys are in the same room at the same time? His voice is timeless. Yours is modern. We need to bridge that gap." Leah thought about her dreams, the feeling of singing beside him. "It needs to feel natural, like we're just two musicians making music. No tricks, no heavy effects, just us." They started with the instrumentation. Mark suggested a stripped-down approach, acoustic guitar like what Elvis was playing on the demo, a stand-up bass, a simple drum beat, maybe a touch of piano or subtle strings for atmosphere. The goal was to highlight the vocals, not overwhelm them. Leah spent hours in the vocal booth, practicing her lines. She wasn't trying to mimic Elvis, but she was trying to match his raw emotion, his vulnerability. She wanted her voice to complement his, to be a continuation of his musical thought, not a separate entity. As she sang, the feeling of his presence grew stronger. It wasn't just a memory of a dream anymore. It was like he was there in the room, listening, nodding, encouraging her. Sometimes she'd sing a line and she'd almost hear a faint, approving hum from the speakers, even when Elvis's track wasn't playing. It made the hairs on her arms stand up, but it wasn't scary. It was comforting, exhilarating, perfect. Leah. Mark called through the intercom one afternoon after a particularly powerful take. That last line, the way you just poured your heart into it, it matched his energy perfectly. Leah stepped out of the booth a little shaky. "It's like I can feel what he was feeling when he sang it. All that longing, that search. It's wild." Mark just nodded, watching her with a thoughtful expression. He still hadn't fully embraced the ghostly Elvis's idea, but he couldn't deny Leah's profound connection to the material. It was producing something truly extraordinary. They worked on the arrangement for weeks. Each instrument was carefully chosen, each note placed with intention. The bass line was deep and resonant. The drums provided a steady, heartbeat rhythm. The guitar was simple, soulful. When they finally had a rough mix of the instrumental track, Leah's eyes widened. "Sounds like it could have been recorded anytime," she marveled. "Timeless, just like you said." Now came the delicate part, mixing her vocals with Elvis's. Mark worked tirelessly, carefully balancing the levels, adding subtle reverb to make them sound like they were in the same acoustic space. He used very little auto-tune on Leah's voice, wanting to preserve its natural beauty and the raw emotion she was putting into the song, much like Elvis's own unpolished demo. As they played the first complete mix of the duet, Leah closed her eyes, Elvis's voice tender and searching. Lost in a moment, suspended in time, searching for something I left behind. Then Leah's voice, clear and strong, answering him. "Through the veils of silence I hear your call, a melody from shadows, reaching through it all." Their voices intertwined, weaving a tapestry of sound that transcended time. It was hauntingly beautiful, profoundly emotional. It wasn't just two voices singing. It was two souls connecting, reaching across the decades. The song built crescendoing with both of their voices, rising in a powerful harmony, a shared lament, a shared hope. When the song ended, the studio was silent. Mark sat motionless, staring at the mixing board, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. Leah was openly weeping, but it was tears of joy, of profound understanding. "Leah," Mark said, his voice thick with emotion, This is beyond anything I've ever worked on. It's a masterpiece. It's unreal. How would the world react Would they believe it? Would they accept this impossible duet? The music itself was perfect, but the story behind it was something no one would ever believe. The weight of the secret, the pressure of releasing such a monumental piece of music suddenly felt immense. She had finished the song, yes, but the real challenge was just beginning. The finished song, now simply titled Echo. Cross Time, lay heavy in the digital files, a masterpiece waiting to be unleashed. Leah and Mark knew they had something extraordinary, something that could reshape music history. But with that knowledge came a wave of doubt and a series of difficult decisions. Their first hurdle was the record label. Leah's A&R representative, Brenda, was ecstatic about the potential of the track. "Leah, this is genius. It sounds like a new Elvis track. How did you get his vocals to sound so good? Is it some new AI tech?" Leah and Mark exchanged a glance. "It's a newly discovered, unreleased demo, Brenda," Mark explained, sticking to the simplified story they had agreed upon. Leah wrote new lyrics and melodies around it, creating a duet. Brenda's eyes widened. "A new Elvis demo. This is monumental. We're going to market it as the Lost Elvis track. This will break the internet. Leah, you'll be bigger than ever." Her words were full of excitement, but also a hint of pure commercial greed. Leah felt a familiar unease. She loved her career, but this song, it felt sacred. It wasn't about breaking the internet or becoming bigger. It was about honoring a legend, about bringing an unfinished melody to life. The label's approach felt reductive, turning a spiritual experience into a marketing ploy. "Brenda, we need to be careful with how we present this," Leah said, choosing her words carefully. "It's more than just a lost track. It's a collaboration, a conversation across time. The focus needs to be on the music, on the connection." Brenda waved her hand dismissively. "Of course, darling, the music is brilliant, but let's be real. This story sells. We'll play up the mystery, the unreleased angle. We'll get experts to authenticate the vocal. It'll be huge." Leah left the meeting feeling deflated. She knew Brenda meant well, but they simply weren't on the same page. The more the label pushed for sensationalism, the more Leah felt protective of the song. She wanted to share it with the world, but on its own terms. She didn't want it to be a gimmick. Over the next few days, Leah found herself questioning everything. Was she crazy to believe in the whispers, the dreams, the sense of Elvis's presence? Maybe it was just her own imagination, fueled by her love for his music. Maybe Mark was right to be pragmatic, to just focus on the incredible sound they had achieved. She thought about the practical implications. Experts would analyze the voice. They would try to explain how a recording from the 60s could sound so clear, so unaged. The mystery would be picked apart, perhaps discrediting the entire project. One night, she sat in her apartment, the old reel-to-reel player glowing faintly in the corner. She played the original demo. Again, Elvis's voice filled the room. Raw, vulnerable, searching. Lost in a moment, suspended in time, searching for something I left behind. And in his faint mumble about needing a partner. Leah closed her eyes. She remembered the feeling in the studio, the chills, the warmth, the sudden bursts of inspiration that felt like a gentle push from an unseen hand. She remembered the harmony that had just appeared when she asked for help. No, it wasn't her imagination. This was real. The connection was real. And as she allowed the song to be cheapened, to be treated as just another commercial product, she would be betraying that connection. She wouldn't be honoring Elvis. She'd be exploiting him. She called Mark. "Hey, it's Leah. I'd been thinking about the song, about Brenda. We need to handle this differently." "I figured you would," Mark said, his voice calm. He understood her artistic integrity. "What's on your mind?" "We need to control the narrative," Leah explained, her voice firm, conviction returning. "We can't let them just hype it as a lost Elvis track without acknowledging the heart of it. We need to talk about the inspiration, the feeling behind it. Not the supernatural part, obviously, but the spirit of collaboration." Mark chuckled softly. Okay, Leah, so no AI, no samples, just good old-fashioned spiritual guidance. Something like that, Leah, said a small smile forming on her face. We tell them it was an old demo, yes, but we emphasize that it was an inspiration for a new song, a duet that emerged from a deep connection to the music we talk about. How it felt like he was reaching out, asking for it to be finished. We make it clear this isn't just a gimmick, it's an act of musical moment. That's a tougher sell, Leah. They want a clear, marketable story. Then we push back, Leah stated. This song means too much to me. It means too much to him. We have to do it right. If they don't get it, then we find another way, but I'm not letting echo across time become just another commercial product. Mark sighed, but Leah could hear the admiration in his voice. Ari, Lee. She was ready to protect the song, to protect the unexplainable magic that had brought it into being. The music was calling, and she was answering the day for Leah's final vocal recording arrived. Despite the internal battles with the record label and the lingering doubts about how the world would react, Leah felt a profound sense of calm. This was it. The moment where her voice would permanently intertwine with his. Mark had the studio set up perfectly. The lights were dimmed, creating a quiet, almost sacred atmosphere. The large monitors displayed the waveform of Elvis's vocal track, a shimmering line of sound waiting for its partner. The instrumental tracks were ready, stripped back and pure, waiting for Leah to complete the picture. Ready, Leah, Mark. He knew how important this was to her. Leah stood in the vocal booth, the headphones over her ears. She took a deep breath, clutching the microphone stand. Ready. Mark started the track. The simple, soulful guitar intro began, followed by the soft rhythmic drums and the resonant bass. Then Elvis's voice, clear as a bell, filled Leah's headphones. Lost in a moment, suspended in time, searching for something I left behind, as Elvis sang his lines. Leah closed her eyes. She didn't just hear his voice, she felt his presence. It was stronger than ever before. A warmth spread through her, a feeling like someone was standing right beside her, encouraging her, guiding her. It wasn't a visual hallucination, but a palpable sense of being there, truly in a duet. When her turn came, her voice soared effortlessly, joining his. Through the veils of silence, I hear your call, a melody from shadows reaching through it all. It was as if she wasn't even consciously singing. The notes and words simply flowed through her, directed by an unseen force. As their voices began to blend in the chorus, Leah felt an intense surge of emotion. Her eyes welled up, but her voice remained steady, powerful. The harmony they created was breathtaking, a perfect blend of two different eras, two different souls, united by the sheer power of music. She focused on the feeling. It was not just her voice. It was their voices. The magic of the original demo, which Mark had found impossibly clean, seemed to intensify. It was as if Elvis's voice wasn't just coming from the speakers, but originating from a shared space, vibrating through the air around her. She could feel the passion, the longing, the pure joy of creation. Mark, on the other side of the glass, watched in awe. He had seen Leah perform countless times, but this was different. Her eyes were closed, her face serene, yet her voice was charged with an intensity he had never witnessed. And there was something else. As Leah sang, he noticed a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer in the air around her, a distortion that flickered for a second, then vanished. He shook his head, blaming it on the late nights and too much coffee. But the feeling in the room was undeniable. It was electric. During the bridge where Leah sang a solo part, she poured all her heart into the lyrics she had written, lyrics that spoke of dreams and destiny and the enduring power of melody. When Elvis's voice joined her again for the final chorus, it was a moment of pure transcendence. It was no longer a recording and a live vocal. It was a conversation, a completion, a true harmony of spirits. The last note hung in the air, fading slowly. Leah opened her eyes, feeling a rush of exhilaration and exhaustion. She leaned against the mech stand, her chest heaving. Mark's voice came through the headphones, raspy with emotion. Leah, that was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I've never heard anything like it. Leah nodded, unable to speak, tears still flowing freely. She felt a profound sense of closure, of having fulfilled a destiny. She knew without a shadow of a doubt that Elvis was smiling. As she stepped out of the vocal booth, Mark met her with a hug. "We did it," he whispered. "We actually did it." He still couldn't explain the feeling, the uncanny clarity of Elvis's vocal, or the way Leah seemed to channel something beyond her, but he knew without a doubt that they had created something truly special. For Leah, the recording session wasn't just about laying down a track. It was a shared moment, a powerful connection that transcended the physical realm. It was the moment echo across time truly came alive. No longer just a song, but a bridge between worlds, a testament to the enduring power of music and the unbreakable bond of artistic souls. The unreal had become real, etched, exhilarating. Leah felt a strange sense of lightness afterward, as if a great weight had been lifted, replaced by a profound peace. The song was complete. Echo across time was a tangible piece of music, a living testament to an impossible connection. Mark spent the next few days fine-tuning the mix, making sure every instrument, every vocal nuance, every whisper of Elvis's voice, and every soaring note of Leah's was perfectly balanced. He knew this wasn't just any song. It was the song. During one final playback session, Leah sat beside Mark in a control room, listening intently. The studio was dark, save for the glow of the mixing board. The music filled the space, enveloping them. As Elvis's voice began, Leah closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her. She felt the familiar warmth, the presence. It wasn't just a sound coming from the speakers anymore. It was an energy that resonated deep within her. When her part came in, she felt her voice blend gacky with his, a perfect ethereal harmony. It was like they were singing in the room together side by side. And then a moment of pure magic happened. In the middle of the second chorus, as their voices soared together, Leah felt a soft, cool touch on her hand. It wasn't a physical touch, but a sensation, a gentle pressure, warm and comforting. She opened her eyes, startled, and glanced down. Nothing. Her hand was resting on her knee. Empty. But the sensation lingered, a phantom touch so real it made her heart ache. He was staring intently at the sound waves on the screen. Lost in the music, he hadn't noticed anything, but Leah knew it was him. A brief, ethereal touch, a silent acknowledgement, a thank you, a shared moment of pure, unadulterated soul. A tear slid down her cheek, a tear of profound gratitude and wonder. In that instant, all the doubts, all the fears about the record label, about the world's skepticism, evaporated. This song wasn't just a project. It was a sacred trust. And that touch, however fleeting, was the ultimate validation. It was Elvis acknowledging their creation. His melody, finally complete. When the song finished, the silence in the control room was thick with emotion. Mark slowly reached for the mouse, pausing the track, took a deep breath, then turned to Leah, his eyes glistening. "Leah," he began, his voice hoarse. I don't know what just happened in here, but that was one of the most powerful moments of my life. That song, it's going to move people." He wasn't talking about charts or sales. He was talking about something deeper. Leah just nodded, unable to speak, still processing the raw emotion of the moment. She knew what he meant. He hadn't felt the touch, but he had felt the power. The undeniable energy that filled the room as their voices had woven together. "You know," Mark continued, a faint, bewildered smile on his face, "when Elvis's part comes in, it doesn't sound like an old recording anymore. It sounds current, like he's right there, like he is there." He looked around the empty room, a hint of unease mixed with wonder in his gaze. "It's like the recording itself is alive," Leah managed a small watery smile. "It is, Mark, it is." She didn't need to explain further. Mark was a pragmatic man of science, of sound waves and frequencies. But even he couldn't deny the feeling, the undeniable presence of something extraordinary in their creation. This shared moment in the quiet darkness of the studio cemented their bond, not just as producer and artist, but as co-conspirators in a truly impossible endeavor. They had brought something from beyond into the world, and it had touched them both profoundly. Leah knew that when this song was released, it would spark countless debates, theories, and perhaps even some ridicule, but none of that would matter. Because in that quiet studio, on that fateful day, she had felt the touch of a legend, a soul reaching out across time, and together they had created a masterpiece. This was more than just music. It was a bridge, a connection, a shared moment of soul that would resonate for generations to come. The release of Echo Across Time was unlike anything Leah or Mark had ever experienced. The record label, convinced by the sheer power of the track, reluctantly agreed to Leah's more artistic vision for its promotion. Instead of just hyping it as a lost Elvis track, they focused on the unique collaboration, the mystery of its origins, and the emotional resonance of the song itself. The day it dropped, the internet exploded. Music blogs, news, outlets, and social media feeds were consumed with the story. The initial reaction was a mix of awe, disbelief, and a frantic attempt to explain the unexplainable. Is it real? Was the question on everyone's lips. Experts from across the globe weighed in. Sound engineers analyzed the track, trying to pinpoint how Elvis's vocals could sound so incredibly vibrant and clear on a decades-old demo. Some theorized it was groundbreaking new AI technology, flawlessly replicating his voice. Others suggested it was an incredibly rare, perfectly preserved analog recording. None could definitively explain it. Leah Monroe's new single features the King's voice. "But how?" screamed one headline. Another mused, a digital resurrection or something more. The song itself, however, transcended the technical debate. Listeners were captivated by its raw emotion, its timeless melody, and the undeniable chemistry between Leah's contemporary voice and Elvis's iconic vocals. It wasn't just a novelty, it was a truly beautiful piece of music. Leah gave interviews carefully, choosing her words. She talked about the mystery of the tape, the deep connection she felt to the song, and how it had inspired her. She hinted at the spiritual nature of the collaboration, without outright stating her visions or the phantom touch. It felt like he was reaching out across time, asking for the song to be completed. She'd say, her eyes gleaming with genuine emotion. It was an honor to be his partner in this. The song quickly climbed the charts, hitting #1 in multiple countries. It was played everywhere on pop stations, classic rock stations, even country music channels. Generations of fans from young teens, discovering Elvis for the first time through Leah, to older listeners who had grown up with his music, were united by its power. Leah found herself thrust into an even brighter spotlight than before, but this time it felt different. The success wasn't just about her. It was about the music, about the legacy of Elvis, and about the impossible bridge they had built together. Of course, there were skeptics. Online forums buzzed with conspiracy theories. Some claimed it was all a marketing stunt, a cleverly disguised sample. Others dismissed Leah's spiritual connection as mere artistic embellishment. But for every skeptic, there were thousands of fans who felt the magic, who were moved by the song's profound message. Leah read comments from people who said the song had made them cry, that it had given them goosebumps, that it sounded like a conversation between a lost soul and a guiding light. These were the comments that mattered to her. These were the people who understood, even if they couldn't explain it. One evening, after a particularly draining day of interviews, Leah was scrolling through her social media. A fan had posted a video of themselves, listening to Echo Across Time with their elderly grandmother. The grandmother, frail but with bright eyes, was tapping her foot, a wide smile on her face. "That's him," she whispered, in the video, tears in her eyes. "He's back. He's really back." Leah felt a warmth spread through her chest. That was it. That was the purpose. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about touching lives, about keeping the music alive, about bridging generations through the enduring power of a voice that had once captivated the world. She felt a quiet sense of peace. She had fulfilled her part of the bargain. The song was out there, soaring, touching hearts, sparking wonder. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, she felt a gentle presence beside her, a feeling of deep contentment. Like a quiet hum of gratitude, the echo had found its way across time, and it was resonating with the world. Echo across time became a phenomenon. It wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural event. Popularity didn't wane after a few weeks. It became a timeless staple played on radios and streaming services for months, then years. It became a song that transcended genres, appealing to rock fans, pop listeners, and even those who rarely listened to music. Leah's career soared to new heights, but she remained grounded. The experience of creating Echo Across Time had changed her profoundly. She carried the weight and the wonder of it with her. A quiet understanding that she had been part of something truly miraculous. When she performed the song, Live, it was always a special moment. She would stand on stage, a single spotlight on her, and the recorded voice of Elvis would fill the arena, clear and strong. As she sang her parts, she didn't just hear his voice. She felt it. She closed her eyes, remembering the shared moment in the studio, the ethereal touch, the feeling of two souls harmonizing across time. And as she sang, she often felt a familiar presence, not a visible figure, but a warmth, a guiding energy, a profound sense of approval. It was as if Elvis was there in spirit, watching over her, delighted that his unfinished melody had finally soared. She was no longer just Leah Monroe. She was the voice that had completed a legend's song, the bridge between two eras. She never fully explained the true depth of her experience to the media. She kept the magic close to her heart, a sacred secret. But in interviews, she would always speak of her deep respect for Elvis, her belief in the enduring power of music, and how some melodies feel like they're waiting to be found, waiting for the right person to bring them to life. The old reel-to-reel player, the one that had held the mysterious demo, sat proudly in her apartment. A quiet sentinel. She still sometimes played the original raw recording just to hear his voice unadorned, the way it had first come to her. And each time she felt that same sense of connection, that echo from the past, now amplified by the shared journey. Leah continued to make music, but her approach was different. She was more experimental, more soulful, always seeking to connect with the raw emotion that had defined Echo Across Time. She found herself drawn to collaborations, to bridging different styles, and ears inspired by the ultimate duet she had been part of. The song had also sparked a renewed interest in Elvis's music among a younger generation. Kids who had never heard of him before were now delving into his discography, craving the power of his voices, the charisma of his performances. Leah had inadvertently become a guardian of his legacy, keeping his music alive and relevant for new audiences. Years passed. Go Across Time remained a beloved classic, a testament to what happens when art transcends boundaries. Leah, now a celebrated veteran artist, often reflected on that rainy Tuesday. When the mysterious trunk arrived, it wasn't just a package, it was a destiny. She knew she had been chosen. Not just to sing a duet, but to be a vessel for a musical truth, that art is eternal, that melodies have a life of their own, and that some connections are so strong, they can defy time itself. The final chapter of the story of Elvis Presley and Leah Monroe wasn't written on a record label or in a history book. It was etched in the hearts of millions who had been touched by Echo Across Time. It was a heartwarming reminder that even across the vast expanse of years, a shared passion, a raw melody, and an open heart could create something truly, beautifully, and unbelievably unreached. The king's song had been finished, and its echo would continue to resonate forever.